Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Fit Fuel Female. If you've been following along lately, we've been on a journey. In recent episodes, we've talked about breaking free from the stuck, those sneaky moments when comfort feels easier than momentum. We've also dug into letting go of the past and the weight of what was. And today, we're taking the next step. We're talking about the lies, the sneaky little ones we tell ourselves that feel like truth, the ones that keep us playing small and quietly burn out our fire. And y'all, I am beyond excited to have an incredibly inspirational guest with me today, Jamie Crosbie. She doesn't just talk about breaking free from these lies, she's lived it, shared it from the TEDx stage in a talk that I think has been watched over 1 million times. Liar, liar, life on fire. And she's inspired audiences around the world. She's a 3 time author, including Journey to the Top, How to Reach Your Peak Performance Life, and a powerhouse sales leader turned coach and speaker who now dedicates her career to helping others smash through limits they didn't even know existed. Today, she's here to help us see the lies, name them, and set them ablaze so we can step into the life we were truly meant to live. So before we dive in, Jamie, I have to say, I am so incredibly grateful you're here. When you said yes to joining me on Fit Fuel Female, you completely made my day. I was actually stuck on a plane at the time, delayed because of some storm, and it was such a bright spot. Right before we finally took off, I saw your message back and I was just like, "Oh my god, she wants to be on the show." But I ended up spending a portion of those 3 hours listening to your TEDx talk, and I was just so inspired that I had to reach out to you right then and there. And in my head, I was kind of doing a full-on happy dance. So, your TEDx talk hit me on such a deep level, and I knew right then that this was a conversation my listeners just had to hear. So, welcome. Welcome to Fit Fuel Female.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Truly, it's an honor to be here.
Oh, well, thank you. So let's just dive in with like probably the simplest of questions here. Like I said, your TEDx talk inspired me and it also really stopped me in my tracks. I'd love to just start with what inspired you to share that message with the world?
Gosh, I would tell you, I think it was so important for me to share this message because I believe the most dangerous lies are not the ones people tell us, but Kristen, it's what we repeat in our own minds. And so many of us are adopting lies that we don't even realize we came into agreement with at some point in our life about anything not being something enough. And these narratives really quietly hold us back from our true potential. So, giving the TED Talk, I just wanted to shine a light on that internal dialogue. And I'm truly honored, as you said, that over 1 million people have watched. It really tells me how universal this struggle is.
Hmm.
And just in today's world, really, that people are craving knowledge and permission around how to stop living under these false stories and step into the truth of who they were meant to be.
I love that. There's so many things to unpack there. I just love the concept of like we've adapted ourselves and came into this agreement based on things that we've told ourselves. And I couldn't agree more that it's an issue a lot of people probably struggle with, but don't maybe know how to address or maybe even admit. So I think it's fantastic that you did that. I want to take a step back for a minute before we really dive deeper into this concept because I want listeners to know a little bit about who you are. And one of the things I hear through that and I just see through following you on LinkedIn and is that an impact is really important to you. And for me, creating Fit Fueled Female was about making an impact by leveraging all of my experience, corporate, female, motherhood, and quite frankly, just life to help other women just step into their potential. I have a feeling that the same desire for impact has been a big part of your journey too. So, for those listeners who are meeting you for the first time, how do you describe what you do today and what led you from a career in high level sales leadership and corporate success into the work that you're doing now?
Thank you for that question. I love it. I think if I net it out, what I really do and my biggest mission is to help others live fully on purpose with greater purpose. And, from a bigger picture perspective, professionally, I would describe myself as someone who really helps people and organizations unlock their fullest potential, really by shifting how they think. And, my background has been, Kristen, for over 20 years, I've led high performing sales teams, was VP of sales at Career Builder, built my own company, Proactivate, which specializes in hiring elite revenue generating talent and leadership. And along the way, I realized that talent and skill only take you so far. And what truly drives performance is mindset. And I think that realization and how, breaking through limiting beliefs ties into that mindset piece is what led me into keynote speaking and workshops and writing, because it really inspired me to transition from purely building high performing sales organizations into really equipping leaders and teams and individuals with the tools to break through these lies, these barriers that we create, and regulate themselves in high stake moments and live with purpose. So I would say, it's all kind of been a combination of my professional expertise and my personal journey of really learning to stop believing lies I told myself.
Yeah, we certainly all tell ourselves lies. And I love that on purpose for a greater purpose comment. That resonates just so much with me. And I think when you talk about the mindset shift, it's one of the hardest things to do because, you think of enablement in whatever career you have, right? And you're going to learn how to do your job and what you need to do every day. And maybe even in motherhood, you learn certain things along the way. But in every aspect of your life, mindset is so incredibly important. And if you don't acknowledge that you either need a shift or you need to acknowledge where your mind is today, you can find yourself maybe just not getting incrementally better or feeling stuck. And a simple shift could just do wonders, which is why I just love everything that you talk about.
Thank you. That is very meaningful, and I appreciate that, and I completely agree with you.
So your TEDx talk, Liar, Liar, Life on Fire, it's so raw and it's so personal. I think that brings us into our first lesson for today is the stories you tell yourself shape your reality. And often those stories, they're not even true. They're these quiet, sneaky lies that keep us from stepping into our full potential. For me, one of those lies for a long time was that my identity was my job. And if I didn't keep that up, I wouldn't be happy. It honestly shaped so many decisions I made until I realized it was just a story I'd been telling myself, not the full truth or the truth at all. So, Jamie, what was the very first story or lie you realized you were telling yourself? And how did confronting it or shifting your mindset change the way you showed up in your life?
Thank you for sharing yours, first of all, Kristen. That's really meaningful. I can relate to that one as well. But I think I had an earlier one that I didn't realize that I had come into agreement with from my childhood. And I talk about it a little bit in my TED talk. But I grew up, I think, believing the lie that I was not important enough. And I think all of our lives really are around that idea of not being something enough. But I grew up with my biological mom, who really wasn't very nurturing for most of my childhood. Uh, and I certainly had other influences as well that I'm so grateful for that I speak about in my TED Talk. But the first lie I realized is that I was not important enough because I didn't see her making me important. She wasn't nurturing. And I didn't, I felt like I really couldn't get her attention. I had to work very hard to be important and get her attention. And I think, the recognizing um, that that inner voice really of not being important enough, as you said, causes us to stay small, right? And so confronting it and realizing that that's not true, that I am important, and that I do have value, that allowed me to really change my inner dialogue and the story I was believing and make decisions accordingly. Because for a while, Kristen, I believe I made decisions based on that lie. And then that is a perpetual domino effect of the lie, right? We live it out.
Right. Right. That I can resonate with that more than you know. And I feel like we could just do a whole session on that one particular story and topic alone. Because I think even just as females, I think whether we grew up in a childhood like that or just as we navigate through life and career, and we can find ourselves having moments where we tell ourselves we're not enough. I mean, I even look at myself as a mother. There are days where I'm like, I'm not good enough, or I didn't do the right thing. And then you start to believe that about yourself, and it not only impacts you, but it also starts to impact the people around you.
Absolutely. It does. It does impact others as well, very much so. And again, most often we're not even realizing we're doing it or believing it.
Yeah. When I look back, I realize another lie I believed, that I had to, I believe that I had to do it all myself to prove I could handle it, whether it was at work, at home, or even in my fitness journey. But the truth is, all that did was exhaust me and keep me from actually asking for the support I needed, whether that was for a mindset shift or just a gut check or just simple help from somebody. So, for someone listening who's not sure what their lie is, what are some signs or patterns that might help them recognize that they're living under a story that isn't true, and maybe they need a little help to go figure it out?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think sometimes if you find yourself overthinking or holding back from opportunities or feeling like no matter what you accomplish, you're never enough. Or you're thinking, gosh, I don't know if I should put myself out there or go try this or volunteer for this or whatever it is. That's often a clue that you're living under a lie. And I think too, another sign is if your inner voice sounds more like a critic than a coach,
Mm.
that you're talking to yourself in a way that you would not speak to your own best friend, because that inner dialogue reveals the story you're believing about yourself.
That is so incredibly powerful because we all have these thoughts running through our mind 1,000 times a day. And sometimes you say to yourself, where is this coming from? And I like that perspective. Take 2 minutes and just say, is this a critic or a coach? And it's a little bit of a gut check. And I think that that's almost a bit of an action that we can take as we have all of these thoughts running through our head. And like you say, that inner voice, because that inner voice can be very loud and sometimes it can kind of be annoying, right? So,
Yes,
um,
absolutely.
which leads me to lesson number two. Confronting the lie is step one, and living the truth, I think, is step two. Confronting the lie is difficult, but once you've named and confronted that lie, it's not a one and done thing. For me, it wasn't just about asking for support, it was about also better supporting myself. And that meant putting myself in environments that weren't toxic, or surrounding myself with people who lifted me up, and trying to be intentional about what I let into my head and heart, and maybe not fully control it, but intentionally think through it. And even with all of that, I mean, to be honest, there were still days it would have been so much easier to slip back into my old patterns. And so, Jamie, once you confronted that lie that you shared or any other lie along your journey, what were the first steps you took to actually live differently? And what helps you keep living your truth when it would be easy to just slip back into the old story?
That's a rich question. Kristen, the first step was the awareness, right? And I think that's really hard for most of us to get to. And this conversation and the fact that you're doing this is beautiful because it will bring people to thinking through, what is my lie? What am I telling myself that's holding me back from being fully who I was created to be? And so that I would really say the first step's awareness. I had to catch myself once I realized that I was believing this lie, and then interrupt the pattern, right? And so with awareness, you can do that. And as I shared, that lie led me into believing other lies. I picked a life partner, I think, who further illustrated that lie of not being important enough. And then I began to believe another lie from that, which is I couldn't trust my own gut instinct because I didn't pick a partner that turned out to be, what I expected, right? And I really felt like, okay, now I'm not trusting myself. So when I realized that and was aware of it, then I could catch myself in the moment of believing that and say, wait, that's not true. That's an old belief. And from there, I was able to intentionally rewrite the story, right? Instead of saying, I'm not important enough, or I don't trust my own gut instinct because I picked the wrong person, I could say, I am important simply because of who I am. And I believe in myself to make great decisions. And it literally helps you rewire your brain to believing the truth about who you really are, not basing experience or creating lies based on experience. And so to stay in that truth, I built habits, right? Just daily reflection or journaling, a gratitude journal, or daily affirmations that support the new belief that I wanted to carry forward, and surrounding myself with people who speak life into me instead of doubt. And I would say too, I just used neuroscience backed tools that I teach now in my keynotes and workshops. Things like, how to manage your self-talk and how to self-regulate under pressure, and anchoring to your purpose, and visualizing outcomes that just help us think at a higher level. And so that really helped me flip the script.
So incredibly powerful. I think you mentioned interrupting the pattern. And when you tell yourself these lies, you live it, it becomes a pattern, it becomes who you are. And like you said, how you make decisions. And sometimes people may get to that awareness, right? They may say, okay, I'm listening to this, I'm aware. But then they almost might say to themselves, I'm aware, but I can't. Or I'm aware, but this is too hard. Or I'm aware, but it's just more comfortable being here because I don't know how to do it. And so it's these little tools to reflect or to make one small step, because awareness is I think, to your point, one of the hardest parts, but some people may get to that part and not know what to do next. And they may be spiraling and they may be just not understanding how to go make some of those changes. And I think that finding ways to catch yourself, like you say, and sitting down and writing it out, or like I talked about earlier, going and asking for help. I think one thing that I would want to say off of this, and I think you would agree, is to anyone who comes off of this and finds themselves now aware, I want to tell you that you can, and it is possible, and you can find a way to get yourself out of that pattern.
I completely agree. I completely agree. We really, I mean, I think that's part of one of the lies that most often we believe, is that we're stuck carrying these big, heavy burdens that are these limiting beliefs, and we're not. We can choose really to flip that and to really adopt a new belief that we choose to carry forward that supports who we really are. And it is a choice. I completely agree with you. And we can do it. And sometimes it takes practice. And sometimes a similar or same lie will creep up. But if we keep practicing, not with just awareness, but like you said, habits and different things that help keep you in your truth, we're able to overcome that.
Taking a step back, but also segueing a little bit off of what you just said, w- looking at the full picture of your life, because as I've mentioned, you truly are such an inspiration, having been successful not only in your initial career, but in leveraging that, making a pivot, and embarking on something new. I think people would love to hear what are some of the habits or the boundaries or practices, like you say, that help you keep choosing those choices and keep choosing to live in your truth every single day. And what have these done to impact your overall success?
Mm, love that. Yes. I mean, I think in terms of daily habits, one of the things that I have done is I have a list of daily affirmations I read every morning. I take some time to do a meditation in the morning and read a devotional and have some prayer time and just get centered in truth, right? It's almost a mindset audit, so to speak, because part of that is doing a gratitude journal and those things, all of those things I just mentioned, those types of habits, they help get us set in truth and help us see when old patterns are creeping back in. And so it's a commitment to purpose driven living, right? They're not just practices that help flip the script necessarily, but they're also about our personal freedom, not just professional success. And so those, as well as just making sure I'm surrounding myself with people that support and help inspire growth in my life, and growth and truth, I think are really important. And there's practice. Like I write my goals down, Kristen, and every month I look at not just the what, but the why, because I believe the bigger the why, the bigger the try, and the better the how. And that helps me know if I'm living in accordance with what I say is important to me. And not just do I write them down, but then I monthly take my goals and put the how into my calendar. So let's just, as an example, say that I decided I wanted to run a marathon, and the why was because I wanted to make sure I was healthy and fit to be in my children's lives and their children's lives for as long as possible. And the how was, to run 3 times a week and work out and a couple times a week with weights or whatever. Then I would put those things on my calendar to make sure I'm living out the things that I say are most important to me, because all of those things help you stay in your truth. So those are
I
all examples of things that I do.
I love that. And I agree. I think one of the things I captured from that is one, I'm a huge believer in understanding the why, right? Whether you're a leader or just in life or in motherhood. I mean, I find myself, we all joke about the little kids. My daughter's 4 years old, and I tell her to go do something, and she's always asking me, well, why, mommy? Well, why, mommy? Right. And so you have to always have that why available so she understands the ask and the importance of the ask and what it impacts, what the impactor or what the meaning is. Right. But I always try to think about that understanding the why. But I like how you added the how onto that, because then it's actionable, right? So when you look at a goal and then you tell yourself, okay, but this is why I want to achieve that goal. I'm the same way. I'm very task oriented. And so for me, I'm a calendar person as well. And my how has to be step driven. It has to be, I need to do these 5 things to get to my goal that I know the bigger impact or the why behind it. But I think it goes back to the when I have awareness now of this lie, I can now take some actionable steps to help overcome it. And I think that will help some of those people that are list or task oriented to better organize the whole process, not just the what and the why.
Yes, I definitely agree with you. And I think that's so valuable to be able to put it into action.
Love it. I think this is also just such a great reminder that living your truth, it's not just about one area of life. It's across all different pieces of who you are as a person, and it shows up everywhere. So this kind of leads me here on Fit Fuel Female, we always like to leave our listeners with something actionable and with something that I call a power move. It's something they can take and they can immediately put into action. So, Jamie, if you could give everyone listening one simple, tangible step they could take this week to start rewriting the story they've been telling themselves, what would that be?
So, Kristen, first of all, I would say one simple exercise, and here's what it would be it would be to write down the loudest negative thought that you hear on repeat, to write down the lie. And then next to it, write down one sentence of truth that directly replaces the lie. For example, I'm not qualified would become I am more prepared than I give myself credit for, or something like that. And then say that truth out loud daily, the one that replaces the lie. Because when you change that story that you're telling yourself, you will change your reality. But it starts with knowing what the lie is that's holding you back, even digging deeper into how it originated, and then combating it with the truth and choosing to replace it with the truth that will propel you forward.
That sounds like something that can provide such accomplishment as well. Like I think about literally a lie and just putting and for me when I hear that, I think don't type it on a computer, don't type it on your phone. Get yourself an old-fashioned pen and paper and write it down and bring a little life to it so that you can then go completely battle it and turn that negative energy into complete positive energy. And in even just doing that, you're already shifting your mind. So extremely powerful, extremely tangible.
Thank you. Thank you.
So one of my favorite ways to wrap the show is with our What's Been Fueling Me Lately piece. And since you're in the hot seat today, Jamie, we're going to flip it on you. What's been fueling you lately? And this could be anything from a habit or a mindset shift to a book, a ritual, or even something simple that's been bringing you joy.
I love that question, particularly because I've been trying to ask myself a question lately, no matter what I'm doing or spending time doing or who I'm spending time with. The question is this bringing me closer to me or further from me, like at my core? And so I've been really intentional with what's been fueling me. And as you know, I've recently moved to Colorado. And honestly, I would say nature and movement and connection with my kids has been fueling me. Just getting out in the mountains is my happiest place. And really, it does provide a lot of fuel. Hiking, rock climbing, even, this summer, things like my daughter and I did tennis lessons together and took Krav Maga before she returned to Switzerland for her senior year. And so all of these things and these moments reminded me that joy and presence in these moments are my fuel. And then I would say on the professional side, what fuels me is watching people grow and transform, just watching their eyes light up when they realize they don't have to be held back anymore. And seeing leaders and teams and individuals break through these limiting beliefs. That definitely keeps me energized to keep sharing this message.
I love that and just such an impact that that can have, but also so incredibly rewarding. And what I hear from you too there is movement, right? And it's not just about movement for your physical, working out, but it's movement for the mind and the body. And that is two very simplistic things that can create such an impact across your entire circle, across your entire life, and just be such an inspiration to how not only you fuel yourself and what keeps you going, but how others can maybe think about fueling themselves as well.
Absolutely. Could not say it better myself.
So, Jamie, thank you so, so much for being here today, for your honesty, your energy, and for reminding us that the stories we tell ourselves really do shape our reality and that we have the power to change them. It has, gosh, truly been a gift having you on the show and frankly, reconnecting with you after I think several years of initially crossing paths.
I'm so glad to be here with you, Kristen. I love what you're doing, and I would just love to just remind your listeners, I mean, that you don't have to keep living under a false story. We're all capable of so much more than we tell ourselves. And so this is meaningful to confront those lies and replace them with truth and then see how our lives expand from there. So it's really an honor to share this message with you and your listeners.
Oh, thank you so much. And for everyone listening, I will absolutely make sure to link Jamie's TED Talk, Liar, Liar, Life on Fire, and her books in the show notes so you can dive even deeper into her work. Trust me, it is absolutely worth it. If today's conversation hit home for you, share it with a friend, tag us on social, and let us know the story you're ready to rewrite. We want to hear about it. Until next time, keep moving, stay fit, stay fueled, and remember, you get to write the story you live.